In the last episode, Nicola's family uncovered their mysterious illness.
I think it was quite shocking at first, because obviously you hear the word disease and it kind of takes your breath away really, so you don't really quite know how to react to it.
But what is the impact of this condition? And what's more, how has it changed the family?
When I was aware that Nicola had the diagnosis of Fabry, it didn't mean very much at first until it was explained to me that it shortens life, it's debilitating. I got really angry. We got to a place where we had made peace with the fact that Nicola has a disease that could close her down, department by department over time. And just to be really awkward, it's possible that it's been passed on to our children.
I think it's very important that the patients have a baseline understanding of how the disease affects them first. The whole idea is not to have them worry, to reassure them, to support them, that we can help them with all the factors of the disease. We're very happy to see extended family members and explain to them also about how the condition affects their relative or even themselves.
It's not a completely straightforward conversation. It can be a difficult conversation, and we try to support patients as they think about their other family members.
Finding out that I'd passed it on to my son, I felt very guilty, like it was my fault he had it. I talked to a few of my friends who said, well, your father didn't mean to give it to you, and in the same way, you didn't mean to give it to Michael. I didn't talk to my children much about it at first. I probably didn't want to tell them because Michael was about 11 and Deborah would have been about 9, 10. So it didn't feel like I should tell them until the consultant said that they would need to be tested. So then it was a bit stressful trying to work out a way of telling them that I had this illness.
When I knew that I had Fabry disease and my sister didn't, I wasn't annoyed so much at the fact that it was me specifically that had it and that she didn't. I was more annoyed at just having it in general, and I was actually a bit more pleased that she didn't have it. I think our relationship as siblings it's affected a little bit because she tends to worry about me quite a bit, which kind of annoys me because I really don't need to be worried about.
I've always been quite protective though of him. Even in primary school and things, I'd be quite protective even before Fabry's disease was even mentioned in our family. And I think when Fabry's disease was mentioned, that kind of just cranked up a little bit more. And I went a bit more protective now.
When you discover something in your past that's related to a medical condition, a number of people don't quite know how to react. There's the secret locked away in your genes that's suddenly been revealed to you, which is very different from following a paper trail. So having built your family tree, have you been able to plot anyone that you've identified with Fabry on it?
I've started with my father and his brothers and sisters. My grandmother was the person that the Fabry's disease come from, and we know that because some of my father's brothers and sisters have different fathers, but all 6 of them had Fabry disease. So then we can trace it from there. My father gave it to his daughters, which men do. His brothers would have given it to their daughters as well. It's shocking because when you start looking, first of all, at the family history, the people are just names, and then they become people, and it's like there's a part of them in me. It goes down. The traits continue. It's just, you can have the good stuff as well as things that aren't so good. My father had it, therefore my 3 sisters and I all had it. His brother had it, therefore all his daughters had it. His other brother had it, therefore all his daughters had it. My auntie Marjorie had it because my cousin Sean died of it. My auntie Margaret has Fabry, and she gave it to all 4 of her children as well. It's quite easy to bump into a family you didn't know you had, because it's Fabry disease and you're related to somebody. One day Michael went up with Martin to the hospital in London, to Great Ormond Street, to get his treatment. He was playing computer games with the boy in the next bed. Martin was talking to the lady who had brought the young lad and discovered they were second cousins. I can remember you coming home and saying, I've just met your auntie and your cousin, yes. And I'm like,
I do, yeah. And they're from Surrey. I don't have aunties and cousins in Surrey.
yes, you
Oh,
do
you
now.
do. You do. I felt bad that my son had it, but my son also now is having to go through the mindset. Will he want to risk giving another generation that particular illness, or is he going to just abstain from relationships or family life or whatever? There's a whole series of dilemmas, moral dilemmas or thoughts that go through you whilst you're confronted with this.
Having Fabry disease will partially affect my decisions in the future regarding my family. I have to keep it in the corner of my mind just in case. As Fabry disease is passed along in the X chromosome, if I do want children, how many doesn't matter, but I'd prefer for it to be a boy because then they wouldn't have Fabry disease, so they wouldn't have to go through the same sort of situation.
I think pedigree analysis is quite important because you can find out if there are other members of your family that have Fabry. You can help them even if they don't know they need help.
I think more people should have the opportunity to trace their family history, particularly if they have Fabry's and other similar conditions. It is so important to pinpoint where it might be passed down through the family tree. The further back in time you go, the harder it can be to spot, which is why it's important to create that record now. If we had that information 100 years or so ago, people might have made different choices. Next episode, we find out what Nicola's future holds.
The vows were till death us do part.
In the next episode, find out about what the future holds for Nicola and her family.